You don't have the right to be sad. You never even had the guts to tell Margaret how you feel. Listen, if you leave things the way they are now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life.
Regular Show is genuinely one of the funniest shows Cartoon Network ever made. But every now and then it hits you with something like that, and you have to pause for a second because a gumball machine just gave you better life advice than most actual adults ever have. Because underneath all the weirdness and the supernatural nonsense, this show was slowly drawing out what growing up actually looks like across the whole series. So today I want to go through the episodes that did that the most and what they were really trying to say. Mordecai is seriously worried. Rigby is about to board a crumbling airplane to attend his high school reunion, and he won't turn around.
You don't understand. You were actually cool in high school. This is my only shot.
That's probably the most honest thing Rigby has said in all 5 seasons so far, because it's the first time we see very clearly that the performance he's been putting on since high school just drops. And we find out what that performance was covering up when we take a look at his senior yearbook. He has a list on it. Become a famous heart surgeon. Ham bone for the Pope. Take a picture while mooning on all 7 continents. Get a slam dunk in the Olympics. Kill a giant squid. On the surface, this is just a bunch of ridiculous stuff. Well, except for the heart surgeon part. But if you look closely, they kind of give you a peek inside the mind of somebody like Rigby. The items on that list are all designed to be witnessed. Nothing on there is something he genuinely seems to want for himself. It's entirely how he wants to be seen. And I think most of us have had some version of that list at some point. Maybe not written in a yearbook, but that thing that you told people you were going to do after high school that was probably more about other people knowing you did it than you actually doing it. The thing is, Rigby's whole personality in the early seasons is basically that list in character form. The cockiness, the slacking, the dropping out to go be cool. All of it is very clearly a mask that hides his massive insecurities. And you can see it most clearly in how he treats his brother Don, who is younger, taller, better liked, and naturally at ease with himself in a way Rigby just can't bring himself to be. So when the reunion invitation arrives and Rigby realizes that he hasn't done a single thing on that list or anything even close, the panic isn't really about the list, it's about the gap between who he told everyone he was going to be and who he's actually been. And that is a genuinely uncomfortable thing to look at, which is probably why a lot of people spend a lot of energy not looking at it. What or who actually starts to change things for him is Eileen, but not in the way you'd expect, which is, again, insecurity. He starts feeling like he's not smart enough to keep up with her, like he's going to slowly become irrelevant in her life while she moves forward, which Eileen shuts down immediately. But that fear is what gets him through the door. And starting something for the wrong reasons isn't the same as not starting it, because somewhere in the middle of actually going through the process, it stops being about her and starts being about him.
Once you do the hard stuff, it becomes not that hard.
I wish I could just play out the whole speech because it's just that good, but, well, YouTube copyright and all that. The show spent years making Rigby look like a screw-up on purpose, because we've all grown up with the same idea drilled into our heads. Get your act together by a certain age, or you missed your window. Rigby dropped out, wasted years, and was genuinely a disaster for the longest time, and he still made it. So why can't you? But figuring out who you actually are is just the first step, because once you stop performing, you still have to figure out what you actually want. And it turns out that wanting something and being ready for it are still not the same thing at all. Mordecai spends most of the show being afraid to say something to Margaret, afraid to commit to CJ, afraid to be honest about what he actually wants. He hurts people. He wastes time. He makes the same mistake over and over again in slightly different ways, and if you watched all of that play out over, 6, 7 seasons and felt frustrated with him, it's probably because you recognized something in there that you didn't want to. I went through that whole arc in the last video, the hesitation, the indecision, the damage, but what matters for this one is what Mordecai looks like after all of it finally settles down. In Just Friends, it's just him and Margaret. Rigby and Eileen leave, and they're alone, and immediately everything starts turning romantic on its own. 1 check instead of 2, slow music, and it seems like the whole universe was trying to nudge them together.
Why does the whole universe want us to get together?
You noticed it too?
Daisuke, the chef, acts as a sort of stand-in for the viewer and gets frustrated with the will they, won't they tension between the two of them. So he shows them their future through some kind of magical sauce. And it's right there. Married, kids, a houseboat, 50 happy years. The thing Mordecai spent years chasing and fumbling and hurting people over is sitting right there in front of him on a plate. But they choose to wait. And I think it's because the future looked a lot like settling. They're only in their 20s, they're still figuring out who they are, and Mordecai, after everything he put CJ through, after the way he handled Margaret leaving for college, probably knows he's not someone who should be in a serious relationship right now. He's still afraid. So instead of giving in to what the universe seemingly keeps pushing them toward, they choose to stay friends, because their choice and their decisions are worth more than a commitment that neither of them actually wants yet. And that is stage 2. Knowing what you want doesn't mean you're ready for it. And being ready means being honest enough to say, not yet, even when everything around you is saying go. Rigby had to figure out who he actually was before any of this could matter to him. Mordecai figured out who he was. He just had to learn that the timing has to be right too. That patience isn't the same thing as avoidance. But here's what nobody really talks about when it comes to waiting. While you're waiting, you're already a part of something. Things are still happening. There are places and people and routines around you that feel so ordinary that you barely even think about them until someone tries to take it all away. This is probably one of my favorite episodes throughout the series, and one that a lot of people point to when they're trying to explain what this show actually is underneath all that weirdness. Thomas the intern shows up at the park house for his first day, but finds it empty. Something explodes outside. A bearded man is chasing the entire crew with a memory erasing device. Mordecai and Rigby barely escape with a time machine, land 2 months in the future, and find out that the park is gone. A highway called Exit 9B is being built over it, and everyone has been brainwashed and given new lives, new jobs, new identities. Skips runs an auto body shop, Muscle Man teaches quantum physics, Pops works at a butterfly sanctuary, Benson is still at the park but doesn't remember anyone. To save the park, every employee has to sign a document declaring it a historical landmark. So, Mordecai and Rigby go find them one by one and try to make them remember who they are. And the way each person gets their memories back is one of my favorite things about this episode. Rigby tells Skips to remember the only person he ever loved. More on her later. Mordecai hands Pops a butterscotch lollipop. Muscle Man comes back with a "my mom" joke before his new sophisticated brain even catches up to what's happening. High Five Ghost finally remembers after getting a high five from Muscle Man. And right towards the end, Benson comes back when Mordecai and Rigby just start being themselves. None of them comes back through something grand. Instead, they come back through the one small stupid thing that was always only theirs. And I think that says something about what identity actually is, because it's never the big stuff that makes you you, it's the things that would sound ridiculous if you tried to explain them to a stranger, but somehow it carries the entire weight of who you are. The small things, the things that are you. And the place that makes this all come together, it was now being taken away from them. And they couldn't stand that. As the final battle for the park is about to begin, Mordecai delivers a speech that sticks with me way more than it probably should.
I, for one, am not just gonna hand over everything that I care about to some floating head that wants revenge on us. I'm not backing down, and I don't think you want to back down either.
The show throws in one final twist with needing Thomas the intern's signature as well, which they do end up getting after handing GBF Jr. fake documents. The villains all get sucked back into the portal, and the park is restored. Whoopee! And I think this episode best encapsulates what Stage 3 is really about. There are places and people and routines that we all probably don't think about enough, even though they are part of our identities. Things that feel mundane and ordinary while they're happening. But ordinary has a way of becoming something you'd miss so much that it would hurt if it was suddenly gone. You would miss it so much if suddenly it disappeared. It reminds me of that line from Andy in The Office.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
So remember to cherish the present, because the stuff you tend to take for granted while it's happening is usually the stuff you end up fighting the hardest to keep. But what if you did everything right and cherished every moment, and yet what you loved still gets taken from you? Skips has been at the park longer than anyone. He's immortal, and he always has the answer. He skips everywhere he goes, and for 5 seasons, nobody ever really asks why. He's just the guy you go to when something breaks, or when something supernatural is trying to kill everyone, and he's the guy you go to when you need someone who has seen it all before. The episode starts on the roof during lunch with Mordecai and Rigby bugging him about immortality and asking him how he got it. Skips doesn't want to tell them, but they keep pushing until he finally gives in. So we go back in time to this ridiculous high school setting in what looks like the 1800s, where everyone talks in old-timey English and the principal is basically just Benson with glasses and a beard. Skips used to be called Walks. He was a fighter, expelled from 3 schools in 1 year, and within 5 minutes of arriving at the new one, he's already squaring up with the school bully Clorigbane, who happens to be an immortal destroyer. But then, Walks meets a girl named Mona at lunch, and everything changes. The two of them start hanging out together, and over the next few weeks, Walks goes from someone who fights everyone to someone who won't fight anyone. Because Mona doesn't like violence, and her opinion is the only one that matters to him. She doesn't tell him to change. She didn't make him feel bad or inadequate in any way. She just made him want to be different. And I think that that's what the right person actually does in your life. You start to want to be a better version of yourself when you're with them. Anyways, Walks' inevitable fight with Clorigbane ends up being exactly at the same time as the prom for some reason. After Walks is a no-show, Clorigbane breaks into the prom and starts destroying everything. So, during the fight, Mona ends up pushing Walks out of the way of a hit, and the impact cracks the ceiling and the debris, crushing her. Walks gets the fists of justice and finishes Clorigbane in seconds, but it doesn't change what happened. Nothing can bring her back. Mona was the reason he stopped fighting, but she was also the reason he fought again. It's just that sometimes doing the right thing takes the thing you love most away from you. But of course, you still have to keep doing it. That's the burden of duty. When everything is over, Walks finds the locket in the rubble that he gave to her before the prom, and he keeps it. Years later, the Guardians offer Walks immortality to fight Clorigbane every time his orbit brings him close to Earth. They tell him the price of it.
Immortality has a price. You will outlive your family. You will see loved ones come and go.
I've already lost the one I love.
They tell him to choose a new name, and he remembers skipping through the hallways with Mona, the time she laughed and said she'd have to start calling him Skips if he kept that up. So naturally, he picks the name that we all came to know him by. But it was really always about her. She used to skip with him around the school, and he liked how it felt, and now he does it forever because it's the closest thing he can get to being near her again. Alright, back in the present, in the last scene of the episode, Skips pulls out that locket and opens it and looks at their pictures, and a tear rolls down his face. Then he just looks up and gets back to work. He's been getting back to work for over 100 years, and I think that says a ton about his character, because we've seen on this channel what the other version of this looks like with Rick, losing Diane and Beth and letting it turn him into something who couldn't love anything without destroying it. Skips lost Mona, and it broke him just as badly, but he didn't let it make him cruel. He didn't let it hollow him out or turn him into someone who pushes everyone away. He didn't let it make him into someone who's better than everyone else. He keeps carrying that grief inside because it's real. But so is the duty. And that's what Stage 4 is. You don't get to choose whether loss changes you. It will. The only thing you have any say over is which direction it pushes you toward, what you do with it. Skips chose to keep going and carry on his duties, and he's come face to face with that choice every 157 years. However, Pops is the only one in the entire show who breaks a cycle like that because he's the only one who had the courage to open his arms when faced with pure evil. Pops has been in every season, 8 seasons of chasing butterflies, saying, "Jolly good show," and giving people lollipops instead of money because he genuinely doesn't understand why that wouldn't work. He's sweet and naive and childlike, and that's what made him easy to overlook. He's just happy to be here, not in a dramatic way, just sort of a background happy character. Then the final season reveals that Pops was born on a planet called Lollyland as the embodiment of pure good. And because the universe has to balance itself, it also created his opposite, his twin brother Anti-Pops. Where Pops has warm colors and black outlines, Auntie Pops is completely black with white outlines. Where Pops says, "Jolly good show," Auntie Pops says, "Jolly bad show." Perfect mirrors of each other, fighting since the beginning of time, and every cycle of the universe ends the same way. They throw a punch at the exact same moment, and everything resets. In the first part of the finale, the crew lands on Lollyland and sees ancient tapestries showing every precious battle, all ending the same way. They set traps to give Pops an edge, but it doesn't work. Auntie Pops starts erasing people from existence. Muscle Man and High Five Ghost go first. Then, one by one, every friend Pops has ever had, they disappear, until only Mordecai, Rigby, and Pops are left. The universe resets yet again. The final episode opens exactly like the very first episode. Same scene, same dialogue, even the same title card, The Power. However, Rigby starts remembering and then helps Mordecai do the same. They then use the power to travel back to the fight. And as reality unravels, Pops remembers something the seer told him.
Sometimes doing something different makes all the difference.
Fighting is the loop. It's the reason the universe keeps resetting. Violence was never going to end this because violence is what kept it alive. And so, the entity of pure good does something that only it could have thought of. Pops stops fighting. He spreads his arms and floats towards his brother and hugs him. Auntie Pops shrinks as the negative energy in him starts draining. Still holding on to his brother, Pops starts flying towards the sun. Because this is the only way it ends. The only way the cycle finally breaks and everyone he loves gets to come back and live. Mordecai and Rigby are screaming for him to stop, and Pops speaks to them one last time, telepathically, with a smile on his face.
I know you're sad, but I promise this is a happy ending. Take care of each other. Goodbye.
Everyone comes back. The park crew flies home after 3 years in space as David Bowie's Heroes plays, and everyone they love is standing there waiting for them. They put up a statue in Pops' honor in the park. He chased butterflies. He loved to laugh. He saved the universe. He was our friend, Pops Mellard. 25 years later, Mordecai is a painter married to Steph. Check out our episode on that, by the way. Rigby marries Eileen and has 2 daughters. Muscleman and Starla fill a trailer with kids. Benson marries Pam and takes over the park. High Five Ghost DJs in Prague. Skips is still there. And all of it exists because Pops chose to let go. Every other part of this was about characters learning to grow for themselves. Rigby learned to stop performing. Mordecai learned how to decide and get better at relationships. Skips learned how to carry loss and keep moving forward. Every character of this show grew so they could build better lives for themselves and those around them. Pops grew so completely and fully that his last act was the only thing he could do, giving his own life so that everyone else could finally live theirs to the fullest. A jolly good show indeed, Pops. A jolly good show. Somewhere between the chaos and the supernatural nonsense and the giant floating heads, Regular Show was just teaching us what growing up actually looks like. You figure out who you are and what you want. Then you learn that wanting something doesn't necessarily mean you're ready for it, so you wait and develop yourself. And while you're waiting, you start paying attention to what you already have, and realize that that's what truly matters. And when life eventually takes some of that away from you, you don't let it turn you bitter, you keep going. And if you're really lucky, you become someone good enough to give it all up for the people you love. The ultimate sacrifice. Most people spend their whole lives somewhere between stage 1 and stage 2. Getting to 3 is rarer than people think. 4 is rarer still. And 5? 5 is almost impossible. You don't even need to give up your life itself for it, but reaching that state is nearly unheard of. But the show believed that you could get there. You could reach that state. You could become that person. And I don't think any other cartoon has shown that better. So, if you want to hear more about how cartoons get these things right, I broke down how animated shows dissected every stage of one-sided love in the last video. Go check it out. Thanks so much for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.